We've got a cow here we call Simmy. Unlike the rest of our Herefords, she won't stand still long enough for her to be here on the video with me. And she's been here since she was a bottle-fed calf. We brought her on in a group that we were going to bottle feed as calves, Hereford crosses they were supposed to be, to build up our suckler herd. And well, she's called Simmy because that's short for Simmental, because she looks like a Simmy, she acts like a Simmy. We think there's been a mistake made and she is a Simmy. You know what they say, looks like a duck, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. Yeah, well, we think she's a Simmy. She's supposed to be a Hereford Friesian cross, but she identifies, self-identifies I think, as a Simmental. Now why am I talking about her today? Well, because well timed, just before Christmas, we've had headlines in the newspapers about a survey that's been taken that says that for the first time in a very long time, the UK is now less than 50% Christian. Well, that's what's reported. But what it's actually saying is that less than 50% self-identify as Christian. That's very interesting. Because, you know, Jesus and his historical first followers, they didn't self-identify as Christian either. No, if they'd been surveyed, they'd have ticked the box Jewish. And amongst the first people who came and acknowledged Christ as king were those three so-called wise men from the east who came. And if they, coming and acknowledging Jesus as Lord and King, if they had been asked which box they wanted to tick, they'd probably self-identify as Zoroastrian. See, it's not a matter of how you identify yourself. Early authentic Christianity is not about a label, but a way of living. Because the first Christians were known as followers of the way. That label Christian only arose a bit later on in the life of the early church. Read about it in Acts 11:26. Christian probably came about as a late term of abuse, really, that was applied in a hostile culture to those who were followers of the Christian way. And the distinction between followers of the way and Judaism, it didn't come in for a few centuries to come after that. You see, early and fundamental Christianity wasn't a label. It was a distinct and a specific way of life. Not something you just so much as self-identified, you did self-identify, but then you lived on that way. In fact, when it came to faith issues, Jesus was furious with those who ticked boxes but ignored the calling to a life of faith. You can read about that in Matthew 23, very famously. In the 19th century, when the UK was nominally a Christian nation and huge numbers would have ticked the box Christian on the survey, it behaved as a culture in many ways abominably, as if it wasn't on the way at all. And the country had a much higher percentage then than now of Christians in inverted commas, but it certainly didn't behave Christianly. You know, Jesus said in Matthew 7 verse 14, "Small is the gate and narrow the way, and few find it." And of course, Jesus' final words to his disciples on earth highlighted his number one issue, his number one priority for them. His final instructions to them were these: "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me, therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, of the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey all these things that I've commanded you." You can read about that in Matthew 28. So the point, really, of my word for the week this week is this: don't you worry about that survey. It's only telling us what we already knew, that a lot more people can self-identify as Christians than are walking in his way. Long before Christian came in as a term of abuse, the Christian faith was a way, the way, and it had followers of the way. And that authentic indication of Christian faith doesn't show up in surveys where people self-declare allegiance to a label. It shows up in a way lived out, a pattern of discipleship and life. So here's my word for the week: small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. And when Jesus is so clear and direct about that issue, we shouldn't really be getting bothered by surveys that say that less than half of the UK population is Christian, because frankly, according to Jesus, it's probably an awful lot less than that. The important thing for us then is to ensure that we are some of those few who are prepared and actually are walking in his way. God bless you. Have a great week.